Hey guys, Jimmy here. Welcome to Oulton Park, specifically the garage which houses our beautiful Goldie. It is round 5 and 6 of the Brick Car Endurance Championship, and this is going to be an amazing race. Oulton Park is an absolutely insane circuit. The sim, it's going to sound like a generic thing that people say, but the sim just doesn't do it justice. The amount of elevation changes, the amount of commitment needed. It just means that basically with more time you get quicker and quicker. And on that note, you might have seen the testing video from last week. I'm now about a second of that quicker than I was there. Jem's doing pretty much exactly the same pace as well, so we're looking really quick and really consistent right now. Good expectations this weekend. It is also my last day of being in my 20s. I'm 30 years old tomorrow as I'm recording this video. I'd say I want to go out of a bang, but not really a bang. Go out with a good. That's a saying, right? It's also the first time we've been allowed spectators in. Not into the paddock area, unfortunately, but around sort of in the spectator area. So we're going to try and go say hello a bit later on. But that's also adds another level of pressure, just a wee bit. Just had practice, just scrubbed in our set of qualifying tyres. Qualifying is a couple of hours' time. So yeah, hopefully we can have a decent result and get high up on the grid.
Also, that day was my first ever interview. Very weird to be called a racing driver in front of a camera. I still don't really believe in myself or think of myself that way, but it's still a pretty nice novelty nonetheless. But yeah, qualifying coming up. 15 minutes each for me and Jem as always. We have to complete a minimum of 3 laps so we can both race. That is the Brick Car rules. As I slid my ample frame into our little Goldie, I noticed that when putting the wheel on, there was no connection. You can see absolutely nothing on the steering wheel there, which is a bit of a panic, and I'll let past me tell you why.
So just got in the car as early as possible, try and get out the front of the pit lane queue. Still 10 minutes to our session, but getting there now. Just noticed, it's a good thing we've got in now, that the connector for the steering wheel to the electrics is basically gone bad, which means that we can't change gear, can't use the thing. So John's run off to grab another wire. We think it's just a wire, because they were sort of messing about with it and it actually sort of reconnects sometimes. Here we go. So he's coming in now, watch out. So it literally was just a wire, which is good. It's always a bit of a panic because obviously that thing stops us from going out, and qualifying is super important in Brick Car because we do not want to be behind a ton of traffic at the start. But all good now, all okay. Wire fixed it, and qualifying starts soon. So wish me luck.
So, out onto circuit for qualifying, and a big part of qualifying, in the Praga anyway, is getting that free track, because we are pretty much the fastest car. In fact, around here we are the fastest car on circuit, so if we encounter anything, even a GT3 on our flying lap, we're going to lose time. So unfortunately I wasn't really able to get much of a gap, and something that we didn't catch on camera unfortunately is we also got red flagged halfway through the session. This is me coming out again after the red flag. But because of timing constraints and because we have to have 3 laps each in qualifying, I was forced to come in on this, which was probably my quickest lap so far, which means I didn't even get to set a lap time. Very frustrating for me, but I knew the car would be in safe hands with Jem, but a good chance to practice the pit entry anyway. Jem only really had one job in this qualifying session, which was just set a representative lap, because I hadn't managed to do so yet. She did manage to get a lap on the board, unfortunately though it was only quick enough for 9th in the Praga field, so we'll be starting right at the back of the Praga category.
So just had qualifying, didn't really go to plan unfortunately. Red flag right in the middle, means that I never, 1, really got up to temp, and 2, I didn't actually get a single flying lap. On my flying lap they called me in to get Jem in the car because everyone has to do a 3 laps minimum, and we didn't hear until Jem got in the car that the session had been extended to compensate for the red flag, which was a bit of a bugger, but that's all you can do really. So we are starting at the back of the Praga field, but luckily in front of everything else, so there's no traffic, just Praga's ahead of us. I know that we're quicker than a couple of cars ahead in the other garages too, so I think we can move forward. I'm going to be starting the race, so elbows out, hopefully no not too much elbows. And yeah, I mean, I think we should do well. It's a long race after all, you know, but it's just a bit frustrating when the first bit doesn't really go your way.
So, despite a less than ideal, I think it's fair to say, qualifying result. I still felt really quite confident in the race. I've really gelled with Oulton Park, and I felt it to be a really fun, really flowing circuit. And although we are starting 9th in the field, safety cars in Brit Car are fairly common. So as I started to limber up to get my gamer arms ready for yet another onslaught from Goldie, and I can't stress how important it is to warm up before getting on the car. I tried doing it without it in the past, and it just doesn't go well. You end up injured and like an old man, or an older man, I should say. I got into the car, but I noticed as I was getting to the car, cars were already leaving the pit lane and going out onto circuit. And I was thinking, well, we're leaving it a bit late, aren't we, lads, to get out onto circuit and finally we fire up and start driving out of the pit lane. But you'll notice, as I pull out of the pit lane and drive to the end, the light on the pit exit is red, and there is a marshal there flagging me down saying, stop, stay here, that's it. We had missed the start.
You're going on the first racing lap! Yes, you're going on the first racing lap! What's going on? They fucking closed the pit lane, they started everything fucking early. I know.
So, we missed the start. What a bugger. What we think happened is that Brit Car moved the schedule forward a couple of minutes and it just caught us out. It wasn't just us either, it was a couple of Pragas behind us and a couple of other cars from lower classes. So our 9th position on the grid turned into starting 28th or something like that, 25, I don't know where it was, right down the bottom. Which means that we had it all to do, and the pressure was on. I knew there were a lot of people here watching because I was racing, and even my mum was in the spectators as well. So I was determined to do well, siving through the lower class traffic as quick as I could. But you're about to notice that Oulton Park really isn't a place to get through traffic quickly, especially if they're fighting between themselves. So a lot of patience needed in these early stages, which is not something that I had at this point, but had to do it. You see this Porsche Cayman in front, just how big it is compared to the Praga. I go to the outside, I just have to believe he's seen me at this point, even though there's a little bit of a lift on the throttle on the right hand side there, just because I was a bit nervous he hadn't seen me. But it was just trying to time your exits as well as possible. Here, for example, I dropped back a little bit, got on the throttle a little bit earlier, and just tried to get past his Aston on the way down to Lodge. But there was a lot of this, just getting through traffic as efficiently as possible. And behind me, I was being followed by, I think it was Miles Lacey and Abby Eaton, who were just basically following the gap I was punching in the traffic in front. Here's the Audi TCR car in front, just taking its normal line. But of course, for me, you're like, oh, come on, get on with it, move, move, move. Thought about just chucking it up the inside here at Cascades, but thought better of it. Thought I'll get him on exit anyway. And then just on this little mini straight up behind the BMW in front. Easy to pass on power on the straights, but not the fastest way of doing things. You want to try and get them on corner exit and on corner entry to try and carry some of the speed that Praga has. So by the BMW now, we're starting to actually get through the traffic now, starting to get out through the classes. Here's the infamous blue Porsche in front. Managed to get a good exit there coming out of the chicane, but for whatever reason he decided to drive down the middle of the circuit. Really didn't want to let me by. Went then to the outside, and he decided to block coming into Knickerbrook, which is, I'd say, fair enough, but we're not even racing on circuit. So just have to be patient here to make sure that I didn't get involved in an incident, because this is a car we've all been looking out for over the course of the weekend. Pulled to the outside here to overtake. He decides he wants to try and take my nose off, which was scary, but again, just had to make sure he saw me. Time my run, got it coming out of the fast right-handed. I think that's Druids, that one. Even so, he tried to push me off the circuit here. I'm really not quite sure why he was racing me. We're not in the same class, but got the move done finally, and I can focus on moving forward instead. So now up the hill, finally towards the start-finish line. Not much traffic in front of me now, just the Aston Martin in front and the Seat. Chucking it through the right-hander here into T1. Finally got a little bit of clear space. I can start stretching legs in this Praga. Ferrari challenge car in front now. This is going to be a bit of a tricky car to pass because they're really fast in a straight line, but not usually as quick as in the corners. But you can see just a cornering difference here coming through the bottom at Cascades. Just carried the speed through. Going to take that. Thank you very much, mate. At this point, I'm committed to the pass. I'm going through whether he lets me or not. To the inside. He's still there on the outside, but I managed just to slide through, and behind me, so do Abby and Miles. They're right on my tail at this moment. You can't really see him there, but we're just basically three Pragas cutting through this pack. And then we get to the lead of, I think, the GT4/TCR class. These guys are actually going pretty damn quick for the cars they're in, and they're not really focused on their mirrors, not focused on letting me through, which is completely fine. They've got their own little race. So you've got to just sort of make the gap, make the pass happen before they even realise you're doing it, and give them no choice but to let you by. The Team Brit Aston Martin there on the right, I think they did weren't really ready to let me pass here. They wanted to try and use me to create a buffer between them and the TCR car behind, which I think I did unknowingly, and then they sort of helped me by on the way up Clay Hill here as I pulled to the right. Thank you very much, off we go. And there, a little bit of a clean track finally. It's been a little while. Finally through all the traffic. You do suffer though, so my lap time's 42s where I should be doing 36s, and now finally a little bit of free time to actually get my act together and try and catch up with the cars in front. You notice that little dot in the distance there? That is the McLaren, the 650S I think it is. I'm not really familiar with the McLaren brands. I'm quite bad at knowing what they all are, but I'm noticing in front thinking, right, okay, he's our target now, let's see if we can catch him. And this is sort of what I had to do when I was out on circuit, just keep myself occupied, because starting at the back of the field, it's a bit of a kick in the dick, honestly, because you know that you could be a lot further up and you could be doing a lot better. And my goal was to try and get onto the back of the Pragas, or somewhere near anyway, before the end of my stint. And so far, we were doing pretty well. Only the McLaren and the Tyrannus in front of us at the moment, between the Praga pack and myself. So catching the McLaren hand over fist in the slow stuff here. On the straight side, of course, that McLaren, I think 550 horsepower, maybe 600 horsepower, so quick in a straight line. Nothing we can do there. So it's all under braking, all under acceleration into Nickbrook there. Using the curb on the right and then on the left. The left really pulls the car around there. Really nice to have that. Using third gear on the throttle nice and early here. Got a great run on the McLaren, but here's the power difference. Look, I'm in the tow. I'm standing right behind it pretty much, and it just pulls away up the hill now towards Druids, and all I can really do is sit and wait, really. I should have, in hindsight, backed off a bit here, but you can see that was a really late downshift. Very late downshift, and that wasn't because I downshifted late, but because I couldn't get the car to go into gear. Coming up now to Lodge as well. Again, really late on the downshift. Barely get second there, waiting to 3,500 RPM to downshift a second. That's not ideal, but I'm starting to notice that the shifts aren't happening when I want them to. I mean, like, about 80% of the time right now they're going in when I want them to. Again, into T1, I had to take third gear really late there because I just couldn't get the gear, and I'm starting to now struggle. I'm starting to struggle slowing the car down into the corners because you rely a lot on engine braking in this car, and I just had to try and get past this McLaren as soon as I can. There you go, nice third gear through there. Just got him on exit. Just checking the mirrors because we're side by side running down here. He's quick down the straights as the old Macca. Through the left-hander. Thank you very much, got it done. And again, I've got Abby and Miles right up behind me here, both trying to get by him. So now, see, down to third gear here, very late on second gear, and I'm starting to notice these shifts are not working. Out of Lodge, nothing. Finally goes into third gear, cannot get it into fourth. Try my best, goes into fourth and fifth. And then I'm just trying to get the car into gear. I don't know why I'm whacking the wheel there, it doesn't do anything. But at this point, this is where, well, things started to unravel for us, because the car just, it was shifting intermittently. Down here was fine, then coming down to Cascades. Again, fourth gear, just couldn't quite get third gear, so no choice but to go through in fourth. And eventually I get into fifth gear, and that's where I would stay for the rest of the race. You can see me, guys, I'm stuck in fifth. Team America hand signal not really working too well there, unfortunately. And neither was our radio. No radio to get hold of the pit lane to tell them that what's happened. So I'm really just trying to push the car as hard as I can in fifth gear, doing my best Senna impression. Stuck in, was it fifth or sixth gear at Interlagos, but it doesn't quite work here because there are so many slow corners. This part of the circuit's fine because we've got all the right gearing here, but now listen to the car as we go into the hairpin here. Absolutely nothing on the power so early. The little turbo working away to try and boost the Renault engine behind us, but there's just nothing I can do here but be a passenger and wait. And unfortunately, it was also too early for us to pit in, so I had to stay out until basically 20 minutes into the race, and all I could do was go around doing 141s, which was so frustrating because I knew the pace was in the car, but I guess this is just part of racing. Now, luckily for us, there was a safety car. The Team Brit car, I believe, had a bit of an incident into the wall, which means that we didn't lose a lap. We managed to catch the back of the pack again, despite being in fifth gear, but I was still stuck in fifth gear, so I had to come into the pit lane, try and do the pit speed limit, which I think is about 37 miles an hour in fifth gear, a gear that's designed to do about 120, 130, and to add to that, the cars in front were all bunching up, which means that I had to go to a standstill. I'm on the clutch at this point. absolutely revving it, just trying anything to try and get the car to move forward. So sorry the clutch is a bit burnt out, guys, but it's either that or stop at the end of the pit lane. Luckily though, I managed to get the car moving. I couldn't engage the pit speed limiter either because I'm in 5th gear, and I couldn't see my speed, just having to guess how fast I was going. Seeing my pit stall was a big relief, so I could just clutch in, coast in, and just about bring the car into the pit lane.
Alright, turn it off. Alright, jump out. He's stuck in neutral, Jem. Hey, sorry, he's stuck in first. Apparently. He said you can't get into neutral or something. Don't worry, we will get you out of it.
Can I start it?
Yeah.
Somehow the mechanics managed to get the car out of gear and into neutral so Jem could leave the pit lane, but unfortunately the problem persisted and Jem would come in a lap later to retire the car.
So you might notice that we're not out on track right now while there's a race going on. I'm not sure if the cameras inside were rolling because, well, it's a bit of a disaster really. I don't know if it's a miscommunication somewhere, but we were sent out to the pit lane far too late, so we got caught at the end of the pit lane. It was red flag, we couldn't go out, so we couldn't take the start. We had to then wait for the rest of the field to go through. I got through the field and got back up to 9th where we started within a couple of laps. I was pretty annoyed, I'm not going to lie. And I think on the end of lap 3 or end of lap 4, the car got stuck in 5th gear, and that was it. I went round until about 20 minutes, came in at the safety car, and then we had to retire the car. So what a shame. The car was so fast as well. We're pulling away from some of the other Pragas that also caught in the pit lane, and then just to have that happen it is racing, but this is one of the more frustrating ones because I think we felt quick today, and it was a disaster from the minute we left the pit lane. But we've got another race, so hopefully we can end on a high. But yeah, this is one to forget. So of course race 1 didn't go to plan. Between race 1 and race 2 the guys have been super busy trying to figure out the problem. I think they've got to the bottom of it. A couple of changed components, a couple of tests, and it seems to be shifting just fine. Hopefully that continues of course into the race. But we'll have to just wait and see. There's not really any testing we can do apart from going out and just driving. So Jem starting this time. Same deal as before, going to try split it down the middle. Safety cars of course excluding. But yeah, hopefully a better run this time. And also, the Praga guys gave me a birthday cake and a little birthday present in here. So I'm feeling all pampered at the moment.
So, big shout out to the mechanics. Seriously, they worked on the car tirelessly between race 1 and race 2 to try and chase down that electrical gremlin, whatever was causing our car not to go into gear in the paddles there. And anyone who's worked on the car will know that electrics, horrible stuff to try and mess in. But they got the car out ready for race 2, which was awesome for us. But I was watching from the top of the Praga truck here, and I noticed going through T1 that Goldie wasn't amongst the Pragas, and here's why. Unfortunately, the problem had persisted. We were stuck in 2nd gear on the pace lap. Jem had no choice but to bring the car in. She knows better than to try and start a race stuck in 2nd gear. Obviously, just a gargantuan kick in the dick, this one. After race 1, we were really hoping race 2 would be different, but started off pretty much as race 1 ended. The mechanics thought they'd try a wheel change, just to try anything to try and get the car into gear here, and Jem sat there patiently hoping the same thing. I thought we'd retired at this point, but luckily not. The car went into gear and Jem was ready to get back out onto circuit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a go. Fuck it. That is, I love Jem's spirit there, I really do. And despite being now 2 laps down behind the leaders, Jem left the pit lane to try and catch up, try and make up as much time as possible. As you can see, she was absolutely on it from the moment she left the pit lane. I think having a little bit of anger in you is good for racing, and even having the fans there as well of sides was a nice little sort of pick-me-up, despite being so far behind. But a safety car would come out shortly after. Jem would leave the pit lane, meaning that we were inside the window, so I'd be doing 40 minutes of Oulton Park, which is physical at the best of times. And again, big shout out to Jem for that never give up attitude there. Really just, if we're in the race, we're going to continue, and I think you need that sometimes when nothing's going your way. So I would leave the pit lane. We were 2 laps behind the leader and about a lap behind the nearest car on circuit. So all to do really, but unfortunately our aim dash there on the right decided to commit the big die coming out of the pit lane. Again, vibrations at Oulton are crazy. Well, you can see that from the camera angle right now, and my mechanic skills as I put this back where it should belong. But unfortunately, we couldn't run the GoPro, we couldn't run the bullet cam because of issues, so we had to run this camera. So apologies for the vibration, but it's better than nothing, I figure. And there we are, green flag. 40 minutes now of trying my best to catch the back of the pack. And I knew Mum was watching, so I was like, I've got to do my mum proud. I've got to do the best I can. Past the TCR car and now in pursuit of the cars in front. And all I could really do now was just try and hot lap, try and go as quick as I can. The car was still having some issues intermittently. The gears weren't always going in, but I was driving as if they would every time. So making our way past some traffic here. Here's a BMW in front. Now behind me on circuit right now is the Miles Lacey JWW car. Miles is at the wheel for this last stint. I got caught up a little bit of traffic there. Miles timed it really well. You can see me checking my mirrors, still checking my mirrors, still checking my mirrors, and then look to the right hand side. Here comes Miles up the inside. At this point he's actually a lap and a bit up on me. I think 2 laps up on me now at this point because of the overtake there. But I thought, you know what, Miles is a really good person to follow. Ex-professional racing driver. I think that once upon a time he was a factory Bentley test driver. I might have to fact check that, but I'm fairly sure someone told me that. So I thought if anyone's good to follow, it'll be Miles, and just sort of carve our way through the pack together, which is what we did coming up now on the infamous blue Porsche. Luckily a bit of an easier pass this time, just a bit slower on the way in, a bit quicker on the way out. Use the overspeed up the inside. Thank you very much, Mr. Porsche. I'm going by, but still you can see, checking the mirrors, because I know that this Porsche is the sort of guy to maybe try and send it back up the inside again, despite, of course, not really racing. So in front, again, Miles is the yardstick. I'm using him to try and just keep pace with and try and keep commitment with. But you'll know that, of course, traffic ebbs and flows, so Miles comes back towards us because of his Porsche in front. And this is actually a pretty scary moment for me, because Miles gets by, the Porsche's through here, he then brakes really early for this next right-hander. I do not anticipate it at all, so I have to send it up the inside. And whilst it looked like a really cool overtake, in reality it was just me avoiding quite a big accident. But in the moment you're like, oh well, and you just continue. But looking back at it now, I'm like, oh blimey. That could have been a big one. So, yep, still making our way through traffic. TCR car in front as well, so we'll get him easily on acceleration here. Pulls to the left-hand side, doesn't quite catch me out a little bit there. You want to ideally have the car stick to their line so you can get around them, but you can react quick enough most of the time. And here's an opportunity to see just how small the Praga is, because in front, that's a Cayman GT4. That is not a big car, and you can see I'm barely at the rear bumper trying to look through it. So, up the hill here now, I know it's going to give me the room, so I just keep flat on the right-hand side. Opt to stay behind this VW in front. I don't want to try and push it through there. Oh my god, this camera is really not dealing with the bumps of Oulton well, bless it, is it? It really is struggling, but you can just about tell it's a TCR car in front. And then we get him on exit. And then finally, we've got a little bit of clear air. I like a bit of clear air. It means we can go and do some clear laps. But you can see just about the dot in the distance, Miles pulled away a little bit now. So obviously not ideal for me to not be following Miles anymore. But I noticed actually, in the clear air, I was starting to gain on him, starting to catch him back up again. There he is, see, a lot closer than he is before, making his way by the Ferrari Challenge car. We're both doing the same thing here. I think the Ferrari Challenge car sort of let me by here, because this car should be pulling away from me big time in a straight line, but I was able to get alongside it and pass it, using a tow as well, of course, from Miles in front. Then easy into T1, and you can see how close me and Miles are now. And because we got so close, I thought, you know, he's actually starting to maybe hold me up a little bit. I think I've got to make a move here. So you can see coming through Druids how much closer I am now. And I know he's a lap up on me. I know he's quicker than me. Well, I don't think he was quicker than me at this point, actually. I know that he's a lap up, I should say. But I thought, you know what? I've got to go for it. I don't want to be stuck behind him the entirety of this race. So I'm in the tow here, deep in the tow, coming up the hill, pull to the right, and he squeezes me against the wall. He does not want to be overtaken, but I'm committed at this point. Heavy on the anchors, up the inside, and gaining a lap back on the Frank car. That felt good, I gotta say. Of a weekend full of disappointment, that felt good. So now we're free, and now I can just try and push this car as much as we can through Cascades, third gear, hug the curb on the inside, let it run wide, let the car just accelerate to fifth gear through here. Don't take sixth gear, just wait into this little bit on the right, lift the throttle ever so slightly, then back on, full throttle now as we come down to the hairpin, heavy on the brakes, down to second gear, hug the inside. This is where all the grip is, right down the bottom here. Patience, 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 slam the throttle, third gear and then fourth gear before coming up to Knickerbrook. This is what's going through my head right now, just trying to maximise this gap I've got on the curb left, second gear, easy now, plant the throttle, third gear nice and easy, and then fourth, and then we'll go up to fifth gear coming down the back straight here. Now look out for the marker on the left hand side, not that one but this one. Again, smash the pedal down to second gear, use this curb on the right to turn, then the curb on the left to just drag the car around. Then we go up to third gear early, off throttle, let the car slide into the corner and then back on again. And now we go up Clay Hill. Awesome sensation speed through here. Got to keep flat all the way through, flat all the way around, still flat, still flat, still flat, and then on the brakes. Fourth gear on the inside here, all the grip is right on the inside of the corner, let the car just drift out, don't mind a little bit of understeer, and now we come up towards Lodge. Look for the marker again on the left hand side, there it is, heavy, down the second gear, use the camber on the right here, let the car tuck in and let the car just fall out of the corner as the camber drops away. And I finally look in the mirrors and realise I have actually pulled away from Miles a little bit, but it was of course in vain. Unfortunately our main camera here actually failed at this point, so I can't really give you the rest of the race, but I can tell you that we came home in P7, P12 overall after being last by 2 laps, so not an ideal result, but hell, we worked for that one.
I know it's a disappointing result, you know? It's not really something to celebrate when you're down in P7, P14, wherever it was. But you know, it was alright, let's get out there. Difficult one.
So another tricky race, unfortunately. I think P7 in the end, P12 overall. I mean, from literally a lap down off last, that's not bad, but obviously it's not where we want to be. I'm sure the tone from the start of the video and the end of the video is quite different. It's a really difficult weekend. Still having a couple of gear selection issues. Had a little moment down the Cascades as well. Also the GoPro on the front came off and was hitting me on my hand through the fast corners. That was good. But yeah, so if you don't know what happened, I'll just take you over very quick. This is our issue. We had a wheel problem. And it just basically meant that, just meant that we couldn't select gears all the time. Oh, here she is. I mean, she's back though. She's back in one piece. Still driving. But yeah, very much a story of what could have been. And the thing is, I was just saying to Steve behind the camera before we started, like, mate, why am I frustrated? I'm out there driving cars, having an amazing experience, time of my life. But obviously, I think that competitive part of me is still like, come on, that could have been it. That could have been a great result. Like, realistically, I think we could have had a podium here. Really do think we could have had one. And just robbed by stuff outside of our control. That's what it is. You know, we did the best we could. That's the best we can do. And on a happier note, I wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who came out today. I met so many people who came up to say hello. There were a couple of my moderators came out with a massive Jimmy as a weeb flag, and I could see it going up the hill, and it really egged me on. It really did, because I was thinking, oh man, like I've got to keep pushing, got to keep going, and seeing those sort of flags and support and the people cheering me on at the side, it was really special. So. That was definitely the best part of my weekend, so thank you all so much for that. Just moved out the wind quick, but next race is Silverstone, 2-hour race, so already looking forward to that now. Let's just put this in a box and get rid of it. And yeah, I think that, again, another chance of a good result if we can carry that speed in the next round. But yeah, thanks for watching, I guess. Take care, have an awesome day. See you all next time.